name's Johnny. I work for Somerset Partnership. This is our first podcast of young people from CAMHS wanting to make a recording of their experiences of what it's like living with a mental health issue. There are 5 young people here that represent Somerset and where they live, and they're going to introduce themselves.
Yeah, so my name's Lucy, I'm 20, and I'm Lucy with Y because there's 2 Lucy.
I'm Charlotte and I'm 18. I was with CAMHS for 5 months.
I'm the other Lucy and I'm 19 and I was with CAMHS when I was younger for a short period of time.
I am Jazz, I'm 18, I was with CAMHS from the age of 12-13 until I was 18. I'm a bit of a veteran.
I'm Amy and I was with CAMHS for 2.5 years.
Okay, so we're naming this podcast These 5 Walls. Does anybody want to explain why it's called that?
So this podcast is called These 5 Walls because the room we meet in every week has got 5 walls instead of 4.
And there's 5 of us. And one Johnny. And Johnny is the door because he opened this opportunity up to all of us.
Nice metaphor. Thank
we
you, Amy.
didn't put
Wonderful.
the trigger warning in.
Well, we haven't, not yet, but we haven't said anything that is.
Yeah, to actually what's going on in your head, it's a bit difficult sometimes.
You're all really passionate about mental health because you've experienced it or are experiencing it. Why are we doing this podcast? What's the point of it?
Well, we just want something that people can come and listen to when they're in need of help, but sometimes you don't want something so serious and like straight to the point. And, so yeah, we're doing it in kind of a light-hearted, happy, friendly,
yeah,
welcoming kind of way.
We want to be friends to you rather than
just talking
a
at
source
you.
of information. Yeah.
How did you all meet? How did you all come to know each other?
So we all met through something called participation group. Basically, what participation group is a group that we all come to and we talk about our experience of CAMHS, which is the Children and Adolescents Mental Health Services. And so we all come here and talk about our experiences and try and find ways to make other young people's experience in CAMHS better, because some of us didn't have amazing experiences and we want to use that to help other people.
So you're all 18, you're not using services anymore. You all want to talk about mental health though, because you have used services and it has affected your life. Would you say in a negative way? Still affects your life in a negative way?
Yeah.
Mainly.
Will forever affect your life?
Probably.
I
hope not, but most likely.
Probably in a little way. It may not be we might not struggle with it for our whole life, and it may not be as bad as it has been, but I think it's always going to be prominent. It's always going to be something that we've learned from and experienced and grown from.
I think we can take good things out of it.
And we'll always have the memories of struggling with it as well.
If you got through that, so you can get through
anything.
Yeah, just a reminder that we are strong.
When did you know? What did you realise about yourself? How old were you? What did you realise that something wasn't quite right with your thinking or with your behaviours? Or was it really young? Was it kind of teenage years? Was it?
I always thought my behaviours and my thoughts were normal for anyone. I just thought they were normal. And then my mum found out I was self-harming when I was 12 or 13, and then my GP referred me to CAMHS, and then that's when I realised that that's not normal.
Mine was the same, to be fair. My mum found out I was self-harming and she was like,
That's not good.
You should go to the doctor. And I was like, yeah, I guess I should.
Yeah, I was pretty much the same, but I always knew that there was something not quite right because even from when I was 5, 6, my mum's mentioned this, that I could never really deal with the way I was feeling, and I would always take it out, and it would always present itself in anger, and then I started taking my anger out on myself through self-harm, and I knew that wasn't the right way of coping with it. And then my mum found out and I denied it, went to the doctors, I denied it, and I was very much, I didn't want to say it because as soon as you say it, it's like,
It's out
oh
there.
shit, I have been hurting myself for a very long time
Mm.
from a very young age, and it kind of, I was in denial of what was actually happening, but eventually, like, it couldn't stay hidden anymore, because otherwise things were gonna go really bad.
And I think that's a good point, because you should always tell someone, I feel, when like you're in a bad place. You should never like be on your own, and like, yeah, even if that's like messaging like Childline or something.
That helped me a lot.
Yeah, I've
Yeah.
spoke to
I
them loads of
always use
times.
Childline.
They're good.
What about you, Charlotte? Did you speak to someone? Did you reach out, or did someone say, look, you've got
I
a...
was pretty similar to everyone else, but instead of my mum finding out, it was the school realised that I was self-harming, and then like took it to my mum, but nobody really did anything for a while until my emetophobia started to become an issue, and then I was referred to CAMHS.
Lucy with a Y?
Yes.
Have you got anything to say, like when I don't know if you want to talk about it or not?
No, I think adding on to the question of will it affect you for the rest of your lives, I've sort of taken something from my CAMHS experience, and that I now want to go and study to be a clinical psychologist, and that's definitely something that I don't think I would have done if I sort of hadn't had the years of turbulence. So I guess it's shaped my life in a good way, as well as I wish it hadn't happened. I don't know if that's the same for you guys.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've definitely like used it to make a positive change and help other people in the future, which is sort of what this group is for as well.
We're just here to make a change, make some difference happen, and a big difference.
So your past influences what you do with your future because of your experiences.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you change what was negative and trying to become a positive, like
Yeah,
Lucy?
I feel if I think of my past as something really negative, I'm just going to dwell on it as a really negative thing. Whereas if I see it from this kind of mindset, I'd be like, yeah, you know what, it was shit, it was rubbish. But I can use my CAMHS experience to make it better
Yeah.
Someone else,
and make
yeah.
it worthwhile, like make it worth something instead of it just being a load of nothing.
Yeah, instead of it just being a bad experience, it's doing something to help someone else and to prevent it from happening from someone else. And I think that's the main reason why I vocalise my story a lot on my social media, because it's not always as easy as just kind of like getting help, and just reading
Yeah.
one thing that you know you're not alone can actually be a big help. I just want to make it worthwhile, like worth the fight.
Yeah, definitely.
I know you all kind of, as a group, you've been meeting regularly, you all kind of really want to have your voices heard to support others struggling. Can you remember that time when you were kind of maybe at your lowest and you felt maybe kind of you're most alone? What got you out of that tough point?
What, like that empty loneliness?
Yeah, like just maybe sat in your room, kind of no one understands what's going on. You feel very trapped, feel very isolated, having some very dark thoughts. Is that a familiar feeling? Was it a very familiar feeling?
It's scary.
Yeah.
I think it's one of the scariest things that you can
Yeah.
experience when you're so conflicted with your own emotions and what you actually feel, and you can tell your friends, you can tell anyone, but no one will ever fully understand how you feel. And I think that's a very isolating feeling, knowing that no one is actually going through what you're going through, and it is just really isolating. And I really hope that I never have to go through that feeling again, because I remember I wasn't even crying, I was just lying in my room at like 4:30 in the morning and just thinking like, why me? Why is this happening to me? I haven't done anything wrong, I'm a good person. And I just remember feeling very alone and very empty and hopeless.
So even in this group talking about mental health, it still affects you talking about it?
Yeah, like I feel like it's always going to affect, well, me personally, I think it's always going to affect me.
It's not something that gets easier.
Yeah, no,
It's not something
it's
that,
always
like,
going to be
yeah.
hard to talk about when
And to
you were
reflect
feeling
upon,
rubbish.
yeah.
Yeah,
You
100%.
just learn to deal with it.
Yeah. When it's
Differently.
like your darkest times that you're talking about, it's never going to be like an easy thing to talk
It's not
about.
often that you do talk about it,
Yeah.
so like when we do, it's like can be quite difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think living it is a completely different thing to processing it, because sort of when we're living it, we're very much in that headspace. And it's very, very difficult to process it then.
You just kind of
So-
like go through the motion. It's like, oh yeah, this is happening.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and you're kind of numb to it because you get used to being in that really horrible place.
Doesn't
Yeah.
really hit you until you come out of it
Yeah.
and you're not in your darkest place, and you just kind of realise like,
yeah.
oh no.
Oh my god.
And when you see
happened?
photos
Yeah.
of yourself when you were sort of like, well, when I was sort of 10 and I just don't look happy, and it's like everyone else I knew was out having fun, playing, and this was before anything even started, and you can just see like there's not a child there, and that I feel really angry because I lost my childhood, and I will never,
Yeah.
I won't get that back.
And it's not something that a lot of people think about, that like the fact that you miss out on so much.
And still do miss out
Yeah.
on things,
Yeah.
to be fair, because it never goes completely. Still
And
takes
that's a
bits
really
out.
hard thing to think about. Like that's
I think
Yeah.
something to always bear in mind is recovery does take time. It's not something
linear.
that happens quick.
It's not linear. You can go forwards and backwards and round and up and down, and
It
Yeah.
takes time and it takes a lot of work. It's not something that happens overnight. Just because you've had so long of counselling doesn't mean you're going to be perfect at the end of it.
and tablets, they don't always work, and whatever support you've got, it's not always going to be the overnight fix.
So like you've always got to keep in mind that just because you're feeling shit in that moment doesn't mean you're going to feel like that forever, because eventually it will get better. Like just because some of us aren't quite there yet doesn't mean like no
We
one's
won't be
ever going to be. 100%. Like because it will get better, and it does get better, and I think we're all proof of that it does get better, because
Yeah.
we've all been in really dark, horrible places, and we're all here now. So I think that's also something we really need to bear in mind with everything.
And I think even when you do get to a point where you are feeling better, or you are in a better headspace, I don't think it's bad to think about how much you've lost, because that has happened to you and it's a real experience.
It's a
And-
grieving process, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
just like it would be if you lost a human being.
Yeah.
So I think having those emotions, although some may say, you shouldn't be feeling like that, you shouldn't still be thinking like that, I think it's entirely normal.
It's a very natural thing, isn't
Yeah,
it?
exactly. But I don't think that is a sign of weakness or means that you're unwell again as such. I think it's something that has to happen to sort of move on.
Part of the process.
Yeah, exactly.
Then I feel like this podcast can be part of the process for some people. I'd like to think.
Like listening to it can,
Yeah.
it can help them
Yeah.
process all the things that they felt.
Whatever stage you're in, sort
Yeah.
of
And,
beginning,
like,
end, middle.
Hopefully one of us on one podcast will say something and it just clicks.
Yeah.
and
Because you've said, like Jazz has said stuff before that I've been trying to put
Figure
into
out.
words for years and years, and she's just like, it's how you know that you're triggered and you get tingly and sweaty, and that's exactly how I feel, and I could never put it into words, and just knowing the symptoms, I guess, and the signs that I'm feeling bad, like the physical signs as well, it has actually really helped me. And I don't think people realise how difficult it is actually putting things into words. Like, you know what you're feeling, but you don't come face to face with it, if that makes any sense.
So yeah, I kind of want this podcast to be a bit of a healing process for people listening a little bit, and to try and make sense of some things, but also have a bit of a jokes, bit of balance in it as well, because I don't think anyone would be bothered to listen to
5 depressed girls.
just whinge on for 45 minutes, however long this is going to be. No one is going to sit through
No.
that, and
Feels like you're the lucky ones that get to meet other people that have been through similar, and it feels like you're extending that conversation out to other young people.
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Before I started participation group, I hadn't really met anyone else who was dealing with any sort of mental health issue, and like now
And
I
if
have.
if you did, you wouldn't really be able to talk to them about it, because you know each other's friends, you know stuff about each other, and you can't really like everything. Me and Lucy knew each other previously, but apart from that, everything that I know about the girls in this room is from this room,
And it stays in this
yeah,
room.
in these 5 walls.
yeah.
But
And I've learned more about Lucy during participation than I have previously, and we worked together and we'd go out together and we'd hang out and stuff, but it wasn't like, I don't know, it just opened up conversation.
yeah, we've all formed quite close friendships, and it is nice to just like try and spread that to everyone else as well.
What stops you from talking about it with friends then? Is it because they won't understand? Is it mental health is spoken more about now than ever, but it feels like you're still quite get over that of like can you just come and listen to me? I want to talk to you. What stops you from being able to talk to?
I think you don't really want things to change in a friendship. Like when you have a good friendship, you worry that if you open up too much, or you know they don't understand, then you ruin that. Yeah, and you don't want to go back from it, and then
you don't want to put stuff on them that they can't deal with.
And then it would be an uncomfortable friendship, and then you'd just be back in that dark place without your support network.
And you blame yourself for everything that goes wrong within the friend group, even though it isn't.
There's no way out of that thought.
Anyone
also,
else?
what I was gonna add, there is such a high chance that we're gonna cry. So if you want to cry, you can come cry with us. We can all be big babies together and just cry, because that's okay. We need to allow our emotions. They are valid. And they are very important.
I think crying is one of the best things for me. Like,
I cry so much. I probably in the last week cried enough to fill up the bloody Nile, the River Nile in Egypt.
I felt like when I didn't cry, that was when I was in my darkest place. I was just empty. I couldn't.
Nothing was coming out.
Yeah, I couldn't feel anything.
Yeah.
So when you cry, you know that you're gonna.
You know you're
recover.
feeling something.
You're feeling it.
Yeah.
Rather than just
living in
It's
it.
the worst feeling as well, isn't it? Like wanting to cry but not being able to.
There's just no tears there.
Yeah.
Deep.
Does that just come out of nowhere, or can you feel that, or does that something make you cry, or is it a thought? Is it, or just you just start crying and you can't help it, and it doesn't matter where you are?
Depends on the day.
It could be at work, could be at college, work. Right.
Could have dropped me a glass of water. That's it. Cried for 6 hours.
Do you kind of know why is that? Because it feels quite special. What you're talking about, is it quite emotional? What you feel like you're doing something
it's
quite
quite
positive?
intimate. This isn't it? This is
no
like
one knows me this well apart from the people in this room.
this is like a really vulnerable side to all of us. We are letting our guard down and letting people hear what we have to say about really sensitive subjects, and I think that is a really big deal.
It's scary.
Yeah, we're going outside of these 5 walls.
Yeah.
Everything for the last
opening the window.
However many months we've been doing there has literally been in these 5 walls, and now we're opening it up for everyone else to come in and listen. And it is scary. It's different, but I think it's going to be good for everyone.
I feel very vulnerable. Like I don't usually let my walls down like this. I don't let my guard down. So to be talking about it, knowing that it's not just going to be the people in this room, it's really, really scary. But I think it's like a really good thing to do for me personally.
It's quite therapeutic talking about it as well, to sort of help with processing everything. It's only a
be
positive.
in the right
This is
headspace
only
sometimes though, for it to
actually be
come
worthwhile.
with something, because you could talk about it and be in a really bad headspace, and just makes you think about it over and over again, and it doesn't leave.
And then sometimes you can talk about something and just not think about it, and then it doesn't help because you're not actively thinking about it.
What are some of the things that you do that is good for your mental health then? What are some of the things?
Art.
Charlotte's got a hand up. She actually put her hand up.
I really, 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 really like art. It's amazing.
Art, what, like colouring or like drawing?
Colouring, drawing, photography, editing for photos. Like, I love doing any of it because like art is like a whole other world that I can get lost in. I can just like do art and get completely lost and forget about anything that's going on around me.
It's like a creative outlet, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like I can even like if my parents are downstairs yelling at each other, like I can even pick up like my art and just do my drawing, and I'll just block out everything. I won't even hear them.
Anyone else? Art is a big thing, or what?
Music.
Keep a diary, or
Sorry,
I think
try that one.
Music is the biggest help for me because it kind of, again, puts my thoughts into something I can listen to and something that sounds nice.
I like listening to like angry rap music.
Yeah.
With lots of swear words and angry things in it that I'm not going to say.
Lucy, Lucy, anything that you kind of...
I drive when I get anxious.
Yeah.
Because I can concentrate on the road and kind of bop, I guess.
And you kind of like...
in the car.
Yeah, if you're in your room, you're kind of in your room with your feelings, but if you're driving, you're kind of driving away from it.
Yeah.
And
you can go wherever.
Yeah.
Go wherever you want, get away
You've got
from
freedom.
it. Yeah.
I suppose before you were driving, what was...
Good question.
Like pets, people talk about pets all the time, about how it kind of like, helps with depression, pet therapy and all that stuff. Is that kind of a big thing? Charlotte, you're nodding your head.
I like being with my rabbit because like they're like I have to look after them, and like so when I'm with them like I don't feel anything, like I kind of have to be okay around them. So like I am okay.
To be fair, I used to cry to my rabbit. She didn't like being picked up or anything, but I used to just hold her here and she used to cry and she used to try and get away. So yeah, that didn't really work.
The other Lucy, how about you?
Yeah, my dogs were like a massive thing in I get not me getting better, but they were just
Comfort?
yeah, and like when you give them a hug,
They're just so loving. Dogs are so loving.
They don't love you
Yeah.
less because you're sad.
Yeah,
Their love is
No
like
judge there.
that. I think they're the only things that can love you unconditionally. No matter what, your dogs will love you.
And they're always there as well. Like they're never too busy to have like love from you and to receive your love.
Unlike my rabbit.
I might just draw this to a close because you've been going nearly half an hour.
We do need to have the fun question point though, just
The fun-
to brighten it up.
What?
Smarties box question.
No, I've got some questions up on my
Go on
phone.
then.
So
Okay.
we're gonna just to lighten the mood a little bit because we've been talking about crying, and I thought it would be a good idea to do some fun questions, like a Q&A kind of thing, but with questions I've googled because obviously it's our
She's
first
got no
podcast,
imagination.
and yeah, I have a really bad imagination. So
Is this to anyone?
this is to anyone in the
Okay.
room at the minute. You're about to get into a fight. What song comes on as your soundtrack?
Depends what kind. Who am I fighting?
Yeah.
You
what's
are
the
fighting.
background
What's the
story?
mood? Yeah.
So let's put it this way.
Outside
Alright,
of
so you're
Paris?
just in.
It's a West Side Story.
So if you had a theme song, what would it be? What would be the theme song of your life?
Absolutely SpongeBob SquarePants.
Why? Why?
Because it makes me happy.
Okay.
You just kind of bobbed that, can't you?
Yeah. Oh no, the closing music. Ding, 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 ding. Because it's just very mellow and it makes me happy.
I don't know what mine would be.
I
I'm
think
asking,
it
I'm
depends
asking
on
questions that I don't even know the answer to myself.
That's a tough question though,
Yeah,
to
I
be fair.
don't know.
That's a really hard question.
Okie dokie.
What's the next one?
Ooh. What's your one pet peeve?
Whistling and humming.
Whistling? I whistle quite a lot.
I
Does
know.
Does that annoy you when you're in the
Yeah.
car? That's good to
Yeah.
know. I won't do that anymore.
For me, it's when people eat loudly. I need to run a mile. I have to like on there.
Just
yeah, I'm the
jamming.
same. It's just
Even
like
just thinking of it, I'm like.
my pet peeve is when people don't thank you. Like you let someone drive
Yes.
past you, get them through, and they don't say thanks, and you're just like, that's very unfortunate.
I don't know if this happens to you very much, but I get a little bit annoyed. I don't get annoyed very much, but when people ask you a question but they're not interested in your answer.
Sorry, I
And
wasn't
they kind of-
listening.
Exactly. I'm annoyed.
Well, they ask you another question, like you're answering that question, and they'll
Yeah.
be like, oh, by the way, guess what I did? Or like, and then
Or
you're
they
just
talk
like,
about their answer to the question.
Yeah,
It's
Oh,
like,
I didn't ask you. I don't want to
I
know.
don't care about what you think.
It really annoys me when people talk over me. So if I'm talking to
So
someone-
anyway, Lucy.
No, but like if I'm like talking, like it happens a lot with my friends. Like if I'm telling my friend something and my other friend just randomly starts talking over me, and then my friend starts listening to her instead of me.
It's like,
That really
hello.
annoys me.
I fucking
Yeah,
exist
that-
as well.
Yeah, that would drive
Last
me up the
question.
wall.
Alright, last question. What gets too much attention in the news?
Brexit.
Brexit.
That's kind of a big deal though. Does it
Is
not
it though?
deserve a lot of attention?
I
I'm
think-
sure there's other things that are bigger than Brexit.
Yeah.
that we could focus
there-
on.
Like the
Climate
Yemen
change.
crisis.
Global
Shit
warming.
sea,
Is that
Bitch
Sudan?
time,
Yeah.
coral reef
Sudan.
Yemen, the humanitarian crisis there.
the mental health
Mental
concern
health.
we have in
True.
the UK. that No one tries to think
Homelessness.
about.
Good to know.
Knife crime. Although, actually, knife crime is kind of addressed.
We spoke about this stuff because you said about knife crime only when it's in like someone's been stabbed or there are
Yeah.
multiple stabbings in like 2 weeks. There was that issue a couple of months ago with the guy Mike from Love Island. Their mental health became a really big thing.
Yeah, it comes in
That-
waves.
it comes
People
in
are
waves.
only ever interested when
When someone
something
dies,
bad
yeah.
happens.
It's very short lived.
Yeah.
And it's usually only brought up when
I
a
think,
celebrity or one
Yeah.
person.
Yeah.
I think, if you think about it, back before social media was so big and you had viral videos, and when a video went viral, it was viral for months and months and months. And now you've got
Like
a
Charlie
viral
bit my
video.
finger.
Charlie bit my finger. Even to this day,
Yeah.
people still watch it. It's still getting views.
Everyone knows.
But if a video is created now and it went viral, well, tomorrow there'll be a new viral video for everyone to watch. After that, there'll be a different one. Nothing's long lived, and I think it's all social media.
Yeah.
another reason why we're doing this podcast. Keep banging on about it. Mental health is really important.
Okay, so we're going to come to an end. Thank you for listening to this podcast. We hope it's been useful in some sort of way. Jazz is gesticulating somehow. What are you doing?
Well, if we manage to find a way, you can email us topics you want us to talk about, as questions, and we can answer them for you.
You can answer them on here or
We can
answer them on
try and
email.
answer them
And
for
Yeah,
you.
we can try. Yeah, we're not know-it-alls.
or
We
just
don't claim
like
to know everything.
yeah,
but
offer
we'll try.
you a place to vent, and we might not be able to help, but we will listen, and I think that's.
And we'll do the
Very
best we
good.
can.
And like if you do email us your story or whatever, you can always you can specify that we don't read out your name and things. As
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
Keep it anonymous.
It's a very safe place, and if you've got struggles, then it's somewhere that you can listen and also
Vent
share
out.
if you want to.
Things don't leave these 5 walls.
Thanks for listening, guys.